Hey everyone, it's Josh. Before we get into today's episode, just wanted to announce that we are doing a live show in April, and we would love to see you there. It's on Thursday, April 27 at Caveat. The show is called The Worst of All Possible Worlds Presents Brian is Back, the 85th episode podcast spectacular, live from New York City. If you can make it in person, tickets are $15 in advance, $20 on the door. And if you can't make it in person, there's a live stream. Tickets are $10 for that. And if you're a Patreon subscriber, you can get $5 off. So for more details about that, go to worstpossible.world. That's our website. All the details are there. And we hope to see you there.
Gents, I have some deeply sad news.
No.
I don't want to open the podcast with something like this depressing, like right off the bat. But
Sure.
You know how much this means to me, so I feel like I should clear the air.
You sound like you're about to cry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I have to get through this. I just have to get through this.
Here we go. All right.
Okay.
Sonic the Hedgehog is dead.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
He passed away and was violently murdered on a train. There's now an investigation into his death. Tails is wearing a very cute Sherlock Holmes outfit. And he is going to get to the bottom of this. I promise. But I really need to get that out there before we started the episode. If I'm in a bad headspace, it's because my beloved blue boy is moited.
It's more like you're in a bad hedge space.
Hey, there we go. There we fucking go.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast that puts you in a bad hedge space. I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
I'm the worst of all possible Brians.
And I'm the worst of all possible Joshes.
And we are going to make sure that Norfolk Southern pays for its crimes against Sonic the Hedgehog. And we're taking our own train back to the little town of Coleraine, as you know we do, for another installment of our series about the evangelical children's radio program, Down Gilead Lane.
Yes.
That's right. It is Coleraine Days, installment 41.
41, we're back.
We've been doing this for 41 episodes.
Yes.
We have done this for 41 episodes.
See me laughing in the Coleraine.
I think the thing that gets me when we do this, you know, and this is obviously
a lot.
Which we do
it frequently.
Often, is the way that this show just gets its way into a very specific subset of the evangelical Christian psyche. And obviously all of our listeners, we hear from listeners all the time talking about, like, you know, oh, they grew up listening to Down Gilead Lane.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
who didn't?
Who didn't? Everybody remembers the Morrisons. Everybody has their favorite Morrison.
Yeah,
you know.
the internet is just lousy with fan art of the Morrisons.
Yeah. It used to be every gay friend group was identified by which Morrison they were.
That's true. That's
right?
true.
Between Golden Girls and Sex and the City fandoms.
Spoilers, I'm a Brooke.
Yeah, you are. You are.
We've listened to enough of these now. I feel like I can.
Well, and now that we have listened to a bunch of these and we've gotten so deep into all of the melodrama and all of the serialization, we're rewinding now, AJ, to introduce you to some of our big bitch family members, right? Yeah. Of course, as we know now, Maya Richter of the bitch Richter family, family composed entirely of twats.
The 100% bitch family, the Richters.
They are bitch fearfully and wonderfully made.
And I know I've said this before, I've made this joke before, but it is amazing that after Andy Richter Control the Universe was canceled, he moved to this small town and just founded this horrible family.
Kept denying the existence of God. That's right. Maya Richter, of course, where we are in the series now, has become a Christian, thanks to Grace, the local blind woman that makes people Christian because of how blind she is.
Where once she was blind, which is still, others can see. Not her.
That's true.
She will never see. She is blind, folks. No. And that is of course,
that makes her faith stronger.
That's
as
right.
we know.
That's her character development is, you know, because she was so blind, that's what makes her such a good fucking person.
Yeah, right. And the Richters have been bribing public officials.
That's right.
Trying to get rid of Grace, saying she's a cult leader, which it is kind of strange that she just sort of draws every child in the neighborhood into her home.
A couple weeks back, know, we did our one-off where we went into that Adventures in Odyssey show.
Right.
Where
Yes, I'm so glad we finally got you to listen to that.
I know. I mean, look, is it down Gilead Lane levels? No, of course not.
Not quite.
And it was really interesting that it seems like even though Odyssey came first, it's like you see the inspiration for Maya Richter like drawing people into her home because that's just what John Avery Whitaker
For Grace drawing people into her home
did with his
AJ.
wit's end. Well, Grace also does that. Look, everyone is going to everyone else's houses.
The only
As
reason Maya
always.
Richter draws people into her house is to be a huge bitch to them.
It's so that they can be servants for her. Literally
It's
servants
literally
for
that,
her.
yeah.
So anyway, we should get into this very exciting early episode.
Yes. It's the first episode.
Well,
Yes,
it's not the first episode
It's not
at
the
all.
pilot. Yeah.
They did but like it's not even a pilot because a pilot is what you like sell to like a channel that's going to produce the show. They just made the whole season at once and then had a pilot that was episode 0.
Right.
And so this is episode 1, but it's the
Right.
second episode and it's already they're doing a 2-parter. They're like, fuck
Right off the
having
bat.
like a little simple half-hour story. We are going full-blown
we're
into
going
like
for
my
it.
novel series territory.
By this point, obviously, we've done 41 of these, so we
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
the backstory.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of we've
lore
had
is
all our
deep.
opinions out. Yeah.
I don't think I can extend this bit any further. I feel like we've hit.
yes, we can, Josh. Hold on.
Okay,
We gotta
okay.
keep it going.
We gotta get the dog. We gotta get the dog. Okay,
Keep it going. Okay, so back on Down Gilead Lane, Coleraine Days, installment number 41. We have a great introduction, just like in the same way that, as Josh knows, but AJ probably doesn't, Adventures in Odyssey had its Chris skits at the
Right.
beginning of the old episodes.
But Odyssey cut those sketches from their intros pretty early on.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Here we've
Down
got Zach.
yeah, like we know that Zach has a tendency to be a little bit. He goes on, right?
Yeah, he goes on
he-
way too long. He
Yeah.
tries to like just repeat everything that just happened in the episode, both before and after it.
But in
Right.
these early episodes, oh boy, does he really talk.
So here we have, of course, a very simple little story. This is something that appears in both the Old and the New Testament. You will be very familiar with it if you ever grew up with any of these scriptures.
In Romans chapter 12, verse 20, we're told that if your enemy is hungry, you're supposed to feed them. And when you do that, you'll be heaping hot coals upon their head. Burning, flaming hot coals right on their fragile, sensitive little head.
Getting a little bit of enjoyment out of this.
Yeah, this is getting really
Their
sexual.
fragile, delicate, nubile heads.
I know I was really depressed at the beginning of this episode,
Yeah.
but I guess Sonic is alive and well and living in down Gilead Lane.
Yeah. Well, it just, I mean, yeah, it's Zach in this case is the one who I guess is much like Sonic. He just keeps eating and eating and eating and eating,
That's
and-
right, yeah. And
hot
Sonic, he
coals,
just
yeah.
he can keep eating and he never gets full because his metabolism is
Right.
so fast, which
Yeah,
just
yeah.
means that he shits so much and it becomes so like big and heavy.
Right.
no, I just pooped a big one.
But that's why Sonic is always warning everyone about conjunctivitis.
Right.
Hey kids, Sonic the Hedgehog here. Yeah, skateboard is cool, but you know what's not cool? Conjunctivitis. From all of my shit, all of my horrible liquid shit.
So, burning coals on your head doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a great idea, but Zach wants to take it one rather
Yeah.
than just explaining what the Bible means when it says, pouring coals on your head. We get this whole fucking deranged opening sketch.
Picture the desert,
Okay.
the darkness, and a guy named Joe.
Okay.
He doesn't like very many people,
Sure.
and to be honest, not very many people like him,
Oh.
especially Herman.
Herman?
Eventually,
Who the fuck
Herman
is
couldn't
Herman?
take it anymore. He
Okay.
loaded up his sheep and headed across the desert.
Oh.
What he didn't know was that Joe had also decided to move.
okay.
Joe caught up with Herman,
Okay.
and Herman heard,
Hey, I was just wondering if I could, swipe some of your coals for a few minutes. My fire's gone out.
I cut most of the rest of the
Oh, yeah.
the sketch
It's
part
something.
with the actors because it hurt.
It sounds like Chris Cooper got a severe head injury.
Yeah, it kind of does.
But anyway, this is the lesson that ends up coming out of the sketch, which is not entirely biblical.
Now, back then, when people traveled long distances, they didn't have the luxury of a super deluxe SUV complete with Wi-Fi and heated seats.
Wi-Fi?
They relied on
Your SUV?
old-fashioned bonfires to keep them
dumb
warm
do they
and to
think
cook
their
their
listeners
food.
are?
But in order to make that fire, they had to carry burning hot coals along with
No,
them
they
as they
didn't.
traveled.
They had
and you'll
flints.
never
Or,
guess
like,
where they
sticks.
carried those coals.
Oh.
In pans on top of their heads.
Hey, there we go.
No,
there we go.
Whoa.
There we fucking go.
They didn't do. Okay, so this is the advanced level of the fucking camel through the eye of a needle thing. Jesus said it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. So, because there are a lot of rich people who have appeared within Christianity over the last couple millennia, about 1,000 years ago or so, someone named Anselm of Canterbury, maybe this is how it's attributed by Thomas Aquinas, was like, oh no, Jesus doesn't mean literally. He means there was a gate in Jerusalem that was really small, but you still had to get your camel through it. So you had to unburden your camel and then set it on like a rolling dolly and slide it through and then put all your stuff back on it so it could get through. They called that gate the eye of the needle.
What?
This is absolute horseshit, but
This is it's exactly what it sounds like. Jesus is saying this can't happen. There's another interpretation that actually makes some sense involving ancient Greek and a vowel shift that happened at the time where the word for camel and the word for rope are very similar. And so so there's one thought that it's easier to put a rope through the eye of a needle. And that retains the meaning, right?
No, yeah, absolutely.
It's
also a
equally
stronger
impossible.
word picture because it connects. It's like you can do it with a thread, but you sure can't fucking do it with a rope.
You know, man, I like trying to picture a camel shoving it through.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That interpretation is also wrong because in the Babylonian Talmud, there is an expression given by a rabbi. It is easier for an elephant to get through the eye of the needle than for et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is actually just a Jewish expression from around this time that is very funny and very, very much sticks with you. But a lot
it's
of people
like
are
when
like,
pigs
no, but I
fly.
have to defend my wealth.
It's just a thing that can't
Yes.
happen. And so,
But in the Koine Greek, pig actually means...
why are we?
So the coal story, I actually found a couple. I had never heard this before. I had never heard this insane interpretation.
So is
because
Zach just coming at us with some bullshit here?
Zach did not make this up. So I
Okay.
went and looked it up and I found one article that had any citations at all. This article was on free.messianicbible.com.
Oh,
Hell
no.
yeah.
Which is run by Bibles for Israel, an organization I could find no information about.
Oh, boy.
It is one of like 5 or 6 that just appear on the front page of Google results that you get for Israel Bibles. There are a lot of people who are trying to sell to Christians like the most Israeli Bible. It's amazing.
Okay.
And so they end up citing very weird texts. There's one by this lady named Barbara Bowen called Strange Scriptures That Perplex the Western Mind that was written in 1940 that explains away the heaping coals. There's also Farrar Fenton's Bible translation that he did in 1903. He was an amateur Bible translator and shipping magnate, where he translated the heaping hot coals on their head to and providing them a fire besides for his needs. No, this is exactly what it sounds like. If you do something good for a guy who's been a dick to you, hopefully that will make him feel very guilty, as though his head had hot coals on it.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing more to people did not carry coals that were currently burning in a pan on top of their head at any time.
Yeah,
in
that sounds like
history.
it would that would be challenging. Like
Yeah,
after a
it
while,
would-
those coals
it wouldn't
burn,
feel
they
good.
run out and it's
Yeah.
too hot.
Sounds like something fun you can do in the
Here's
desert.
the thing.
You know?
Here's the thing about all this, right? That intro right there could have been done in 10 seconds.
Yes. Yeah.
Instead, by the time that intro ends, we are 3 minutes and 30 seconds into this fucking episode.
Well, yeah, and I feel like this is a thing that down Gilead Lane and then later beyond Gilead like really nails down later on. It's like they really start abbreviating Zach down and getting it down. But I mean, we're at the beginning here. They're like flying basically blind.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the conflict here at this episode is like, right, how can you love your enemies? And it turns out that, well, Maya Richter is a jerk. We don't get to the conflict itself for 10 minutes
Yes.
of this 23-minute episode of radio.
Did we mention that this episode is called The Unlovables?
The Unlovables Part 1.
I think that's a good point. This is season 1, episode 1, sort of. The Unlovables.
Yes.
And boy, as we know, this show really thinks that this family is unlovable.
Oh, yeah.
And should not be loved, really. But like, we have to go through this scene where Timmy is like, hey, Dad, something with a dog. And the dad's like, no, fuck off, Timmy. I have to go pick up your mom whose car has broken down.
Well, I think that means it's time for our patented segment. Who's a good boy? It's you. AJ's Doghouse. What's up, my strays and spays? Welcome back to AJ's Doghouse, the only recurring segment that puts the woof in yiff. This week's dog who puts the cur in curvaceous is none other than Kipper Jennings, the good boy next door who gets caught sniffing around the Morrisons' yard. What's he trying to dig up, and why is it definitely the previous owners of the Morrison home? Regardless, what does the sleek doggo get for his trouble? A rock that breaks his back leg, thrown by one of the Morrison children.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to Gonker, this adorably tragic boy gets a shadow trying to climb up the muddy hole only to slide back down again. Mm-hmm. This has been AJ's Doghouse. Every dog from the 90s is dead. AJ's Doghouse.
AJ, I love that, as I've said this many, many times before in these 41 episodes that we've done, I love that your AJ's Doghouse outro starts as a Gregorian chant. Like, you were just like, I'm going to improvise a tune, and then it's just like, this is what the priests would always sing.
Well, no, it's content dictates form. So, I did a couple of versions of it, but it was just like, I can't really fully deny the Catholicism coming through.
Well,
right?
when we did that one-off bit about you and cats, when we were reviewing the Left Behind Kids radio series, that one was an ubi caritas, and I don't even think you realized that.
No, I didn't. And also, it goes to my theory that, like, the Morrisons themselves are Catholic.
That's
so
fucking
many kids.
enough. I honestly, I've been wanting to pull the plug on this stupid fucking bit for like. Okay,
it was your idea.
I know it was my idea, but we had some fun. Don't we have fun here, folks? Look,
we do have fun. Hey, listeners! It looks like we're all slapping floor in Odyssey terms.
There we go. No, so obviously the joke that we've done, because it's April Fool's Day week.
It's many days after April Fool's.
So obviously we've been
Fool's.
joking about doing this, of course, and then the joke, just to explain the joke, because jokes are funnier when you explain them.
Yes.
Is that we haven't really done 41 episodes of this. We usually do Adventures in Odyssey. Here's the thing, though. Everything else that we've talked about is 100% true.
This is a real show, guys.
It's called Down Gilead Lane. It was produced in my hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan, by an organization called Keys for Kids.
Yes.
And
formerly Children's Bible Hour, which was a radio show started in 1942.
And it only stopped airing as Children's Bible Hour like a decade-ish ago.
Yeah.
So this is fucking sicko shit, you know. This is like the evil, dark Calvinist Michigan version of Adventures in Odyssey. Brian, I do think it was your idea to be like, we should do this for April Fools.
Well,
I do think it was that.
I mean, it was somewhat organic, but like we had been talking about doing the series. We had a couple comments where people mentioned it, and then there were some, let's say, personal revelations that will be revealed later in this episode regarding the show that cemented that we had to cover it. This is maybe our most expensive episode of the podcast to date, because I had to spend $200 to get a fucking USB thumb drive that contained every episode of Down Gilead Lane, except for apparently a handful of cut episodes that parents complained about.
Are there? There's like fucking...
yeah, it's definitely over. It's maybe like 120. I didn't actually count them all together, of Down Gilead Lane and what was later called Beyond Gilead, because there was something about the rights with the original owner, Beth Culp, of the first
there seemed to be some sort of split there. But also, if you... Here's the thing. Not counting them is one thing, but like if you want to find out any information on this, please go to Down Gilead Lane's broken ass website, which is nigh unnavigatable. Like, dear God.
Getting the thumb drive, it was like, oh, there's no titles on these. It's all in the metadata somewhere.
Right.
And whenever I was like importing everything into Audition to grab clips, every clip said, the metadata's fucked up. Warning, fucked up metadata in these.
Yeah, and when you got that USB drive, it was from that guy in that trench coat in the alley by your house, right, Brian?
Yes. I mean, the envelope was filthy. It was disgusting when it got
Was it
here.
really?
I don't know what kind of journey it had to take.
God. God.
Maybe it was a dog's journey. I don't know.
So I just wanted to clear a couple other things before we jump into and I cannot emphasize it strongly enough, very real episode of this very real radio show. Nothing that we've said so far, including the bit about the dog and the kid who throws rocks at the dogs and the bitch family, none of that is a joke. And
the Zach, the fake Chris, is a real guy
100%
whose name
real.
is not actually Zach. He has a different name.
The clips that we played so far, 100% real. But the last thing that I wanted to frame up real quick before we jump back into the recap is just a little bit actually about Beth Culp, who we previously mentioned, the person who made this. All you really need to know is that she's from Wisconsin. She lost her brother in a car accident when she was 11. Around that time, in her school, they sang a number of like traditional songs. One of those was Balm in Gilead, which is a traditional African-American spiritual, right? That was a very meaningful experience for her. So Balm in Gilead is a song that's been in her head. She interviewed with CBH Ministries, Children's Bible Hour, at the age of 22 and got hired based on a book pitch that she had for a family living in a place called Coleraine down a street called Gilead Lane.
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.